Welcome to the Lifestwists Show with your hosts, Terry Robinson, Lance Conley, and Eric Harrison. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Lifestwists. This is another great week. We're in the Christmas holiday season, and everybody's running around shopping and doing all kinds of stuff. And you know, we're still kind of tackling some of these issues as it deals with athletes and them transitioning. So I'm not going to waste too much time this week. I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guys. The first dude that I'm going to introduce, and I always make him first because he always kind of helps us put the show together and helps us kind of keep things in order. And that's my man, Lance Conley. Hey, what's going on, Lance?
Hey, thanks, Eric. Good to be around for the fifth show. We got some interesting subjects tonight, so I look forward to the discussion with you and Terry and hopefully some call-in shows.
Awesome. And then you just mentioned our main man, Terry. You know, that's the cleanup hitter. You know what I'm saying? He's that fourth batter that comes in and always hits that grand slam for us. So what's going on, Terry? Terry Robinson.
Hey, how you doing, Eric?
I'm good. Yeah,
right,
man.
Looking forward to getting it on the road.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, Lance, I'm going to go ahead and let you kick it off, man. We've got some serious stuff to talk about this week, and we want to jump right into it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Eric. Tonight we're going to discuss, Chapter 4 a little bit in the book, Athlete Transition Stress. And that chapter is titled Transition. And, I had the opportunity to just read a couple articles that really relates to that chapter. The first one being the Marcus Lattimore story. He was a running back at South Carolina, an elite athlete, one of the top running backs in the country his freshman year, and had a devastating knee injury, which basically put him out of football. And it was a situation where he wasn't really prepared for it. And then we also, we're going to talk a little bit about Isaiah Austin. He was a basketball player for Baylor University. Went through the 3-4 years at Baylor. Was projected to be one of the top draft picks. Went through the combine, and through the combine they found out that he had a heart condition, which no NBA team is going to draft a player under those circumstances. So again, another example of a player that was not really prepared, and it was kind of devastating to be, in that situation, because a lot of times, the athlete isn't prepared for that situation, and a lot of their support systems aren't really prepared for it either. And so, obviously, we're going to use some examples of players that, had some good support systems around them, and some that didn't, and really some of the different outcomes based on those support systems. But the first thing, I want to just kind of pull from, Chapter 4 of Athlete Transition Stress, and kind of some things that Terry touched on, and use those stories as examples. And one of the things he talks about is, pride is the root of athlete transition stress. And a lot of these athletes have a lot of pride because, they've worked extremely hard to, get where they want to go. And then all of a sudden, Marcus Lattimore against, Tennessee, bam, blew his knee out. And, he was expected to be a high-round draft pick. And all of a sudden he has to, deal with it emotionally. And, how does a player deal with those circumstances emotionally? He was pretty fortunate that he had a strong support system around him. But, he talks about, how depressed he was, how difficult it was, for that, the first, 3, 4, 5, 6 months of going through that process. And so a little bit, and we'll pull Terry into the discussion too, and talk a little bit about Chapter 4, and maybe talk a little bit about his experience also. But we're just going to go ahead and, move forward with that. And, Terry, I'll let you go ahead and, add to the discussion and talk a little bit about those situations and, your experience or, your thoughts on, players having to deal with medical conditions or not being prepared to leave the sport in those situations.
Yeah, when you think about those two guys in particular, Isaiah and Marcus, and how they had to lead the game, it's different when you can walk away on your own terms, and you had an extended period of time to even play at the highest level. Here are two guys that were, some of the best in the country. Marcus, a Heisman Trophy candidate, for sure, if he stayed healthy. And Isaiah, he would have been a first-round draft pick, no question about it. And so, when you think about people making transitions and how it affects, here's some guys that made it all the way to the top. You can only imagine the work that they put into getting there. And then all of a sudden you have an injury or illness or something that just kicks you out of the game. So because I always looked at it at certain levels, certain people have it worse than others. And what I came to discover about my own self, I was complaining, but I really didn't have it as bad because, first of all, by the time I got to college, it was over. So my experience was totally different. These guys played, and they played well all the way through college and were professional prospects. I mean, at the highest level, and it was nothing else that they could do, about their circumstances, and they had to let it go. I mean, they were forced out of the game, So there's a difference there, and when I think about those guys, the depression, those guys, I'm sure they experienced some clinical depression. My depression was just I was down. You know what I mean? So I didn't even really look at it as a clinical depression in terms of what I was going through. Yeah, I was upset about not doing what I thought I could have done, but at the end of the day, my career had ended a long time ago. And then, you have these guys that played on these huge stages, and everybody knows them, and everybody recognizes them. And they always feel like they have to answer these questions, what if? Or, how do you feel? How did this affect you? And every time you hear those questions, it's almost like it just continues to bring up bad feelings until you work through the process. And these guys are in their 20s, young 20s. And so they still have a lot of growing to do, period, mentally, emotionally as well. And so it's challenging when you read these stories, but it happens all the time. And the transitions in life happen all the time, And the biggest thing we all fight for is control, whether we want to realize it or not. And a lot of times we find ourselves with no control, and that's a hard pill to swallow because athletes, it's all about control. That's why you do the things that you do to try to maximize the control that you have.
Exactly. And one of the other things too, and don't get thrown off by the title of the show, the programming and condition and its effects, because the programming and conditioning that happens while you're playing this game. Imagine what Isaiah Austin and Marcus Lattimore, as they went through all the years of training, I mean, all the way from, playing as young kids to, moving on to, junior high school, and then also coming to the point of having major college careers where they're on a national stage. You got to realize now their minds are conditioned and programmed to the point where they think that they will be playing these sports for their living, for their lifetime, and I think that's what happens with a lot of athletes as well. And Lance and Terry, you can chime in on this, but I think that is makes it the hardest thing for people to transition from, is the fact that, hey, this is now I can no longer do this for my living. I cannot do this for my profession, and I have to go and find something else. What do you guys think about that? Is that something that kind of washed over both of these guys' mind, and these two guys seem to have made a pretty decent transition. But what about all the other guys who don't?
Well, I'm sure it's a shock to the system when you've known for years that you were going to be a millionaire, literally. And in a lot of cases, that you could become a millionaire doing other stuff, but how much harder will that be? Because this is what you've done your whole life, and this is what you've practiced. Mm-hmm. So in the back of your mind, you already have it set up. I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be able to take care of myself and some people in my family or whatever. And then when you find yourself in this situation and you find yourself having to go find a job doing something that 9 times out of 10 you don't want to do or you never thought you would be doing. That's a shock to the system in itself, because
exactly.
It's almost like it feels like it's a step down or several steps down. And so that obviously when you're in those type of situations, that affects you emotionally too, because now it's affecting your ego pretty much, because it's like, man, I was right there. I was right there. I had it right in my hand, and it disappeared. You know what I mean? And so how do you deal with that? And the only thing that you can really do is get to a place where you can process it, because the only thing that's going to heal it is time. I don't care what nobody tells you, who you go see. It's going to take time to get through that process, but hopefully you got positive people around you that's encouraging to keep going, keep moving forward, because depression, like I said, if it jumps on you, man, it sneaks up on you sometime and you don't realize you're in it. It can take years to come out of that. It can take years to come out of that. And God forbid if you already have some substance abuse or type habits anyway. I mean, because you would delve deeper into that stuff too, trying to self-medicate.
Yeah, because I have a question for you, Terry. Because I know in Chapter 4, cause like you said earlier, and I think Eric was talking about it too a little bit, is the ability to control versus manage, some of the after effects of, going through that transition. Because Eric talked about, we're so used to physically being in control. When you're an athlete, you have that ability physically to really control everything around you, especially when you're an elite athlete. I mean, if you're a running back like Marcus Lattimore, you use your physical abilities. You're in control when you're out on the field, or you're in control when you're in the weight room, or, in those situations. Or in Isaiah from Baylor, he's in control on the basketball court. When he gets the ball at the post, he knows what he's going to do. He's in control. And my question to you guys, and something to think about, is, when these athletes make that transition, or that sport is no longer there, and they feel like they might lose some control, what in the book you talk about it, Terry, control versus manage. Can you get into that a little bit more, and your thoughts on that as an athlete, and how to deal with that, or the differences?
Yeah. Well, like I said, we all fight for control. And anytime we feel like we're not in control, that becomes a problem. And that's what I meant when you talk about managing. How do you manage when you're no longer in control? Because if you're not in control, something or somebody else is in control, and that's hard to manage. When I'm used to being in control, and now somebody's controlling me or over me, or I feel like that, whether it's true or not. But in most cases, that's how you feel. Like I'm not in control no more. And how do you gain your footing again? And the only way you're going to gain your footing again is starting over. And sometimes it's starting over at the bottom. And you always have to remember that, well, I've done this before. You have to keep telling yourself, I've done this before, because there's going to be times where you're thinking, like, I don't even want to do this. I don't want to go through this process no more. But you have to keep telling yourself, it's a mental game, just like sports. It's
exactly.
mental. If you don't continue to tell yourself, I've been here before, I've done this before, you won't do it. And so that's when I'm talking about learning how to manage that. That's what it boils down to. How do you manage a situation where you feel like you have no control? You have to look at the little things that you do have control over and try to manage those things. Because if you don't, you lose control of those little things. I mean, it's a little. It goes from big things to little things, and trying to move forward, man. And it's a struggle sometimes, but another thing, you have to look at other people. Other people have gone through it. You know what I mean? And so we have to be able to call on just not just our experience, but other people's experience.
Because, for example, Marcus Lattimore, bam, blows out his knee. The basketball player from Baylor, a heart condition. Those are both physical attributes. All of a sudden, those are gone. Do you feel like it's more of a mental game then? And do you feel like when you're an athlete, that you need to kind of fill that tank up a little bit more? And how do you do that?
Yeah, what you saying? Do I feel like it's more of a physical or mental thing,
or is it more of a mental thing to overcome? Because obviously, sports is so physical in nature, and obviously there's some mental aspects to it too.
Yeah.
But
I think
probably, go ahead.
I believe most of it is mental. Because, like, if they hadn't had those injuries, of course, you know, they'd be playing somewhere. Of course, you know, with those physical injuries, they just can't do it. But I think for the most part, it's all mental. It's all mental. Like, that's what I'm saying. When you have to keep telling yourself the same thing over and over, you have to keep looking for the positives in every situation. Because when you're going through something like that, it's easy to look at the negatives. That's what you focus on more than anything. You even find yourself surrounded by negative people. You just seem to gravitate to that because of how you feel internally. And so you have to be conscious of that. No, I'm not going to be over here. I'm not going to be with these people. I need to speak positive regardless, you know, what I see. You know, that's when I have to really have some skills and I have to have some know-how, because these are things that what we're talking about, people don't talk about on a regular basis. You have to go dig for this information, you know, and it's common sense stuff once you understand it, but you have to, you're doing so much talking to yourself, it's mental.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, because you know, I can really relate to that because, you know, just running a business, you know, when you have to overcome obstacles, I think the first thing you want to do is control it versus manage it. And I think it is more of a mental mind, you know, some thoughts. Because a lot of negative thoughts, when you have negative thoughts or you feel like you're not in control, the first thing you want to do is try to control it. And, you know, and I think about my business experience, you know, just managing people, because sometimes people are difficult to manage because you're dealing with all different types of personalities. But, you know, that ability to just step back, I think like you say in the book, is just, you know, watch, observe, you know, just check things out, because, you know, one of the things as I was reading through this materials and really educating myself on athlete transition stress and use the materials that you provided is, you know, you see things that you've never seen before, or, you know, when a story comes on Sports Center or, you know, Fox Sports or, you know, something like that, you look at it from a different perspective. And I think, you know, just reading your book, it allows you to do that. It definitely allows you to see what some of these players endure, you know, outside of sports, because I think a lot of people, what they want to do is, well, we don't really need them no more. You know, they're not the star. You know, Lattimore, okay, you know, he's not on our team no more, and the next running back comes in, and we almost, you know, push these guys off like they're not important, and then they're left out there to kind of deal with a lot of these issues on their own, and that's why, you know, go ahead.
Yeah, so a lot of times, you know, sports, you know, I'm going to say this again and again, it's really a game for kids. And a lot of us grow up doing this, so it allows us more time to be a kid. So and emotionally, we don't really grow. A lot of us, now I'm not saying all, I never would say all, but emotionally, a lot of us never get to that point where we grow up, and it allows us more time to be a kid and to have and to laugh and run and have a ball. And some people are fortunate enough to get paid to do that. And so can you imagine when it's just the rug is pulled from up under you for whatever reason, especially an injury or something like that. You know, now you don't have this adult emotional this adult dealing with this situation. You have that little kid dealing with this situation in a lot of instances. And they don't know how to manage that at all. You know, it's just like a kid going to the playground. You guys ever taking a kid to the playground? Do they ever want to leave the playground? I don't care what it is. If it's raining, they still want to they want to play in the rain.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's very similar to that. And I'm not calling these athletes kids, but I'm just using this as an example. That's what playing means to them. And that's how much it means to them, that they are willing to, I don't care what the situation is. You guys have seen guys playing on bad ankle sprain. You remember Isaiah Thomas played in that game? He was hobbling up the court. You couldn't get that man off the court if you wanted to. And that's because of how much it meant to him, you know. So this whole process is bringing an awareness to what's going on. Like Lance said, you know, you see things now on TV with athletes, and you have a whole different perspective than what you used to have. You know, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
man, I wouldn't have recognized that if we hadn't started addressing this issue. I wouldn't have recognized all these different things that these athletes are going through on a daily basis. This is a daily basis. It's not once a year. It's happening over and over again. And there's a lot of cases that we don't know about. And we'll start bringing those things to light because we're trying to educate the people. We're trying to bring an awareness to something that people are going through, but they don't even know what they're going through. They don't know what to call it. How
Exactly.
Where to even start? You know, because once you go down that path, and God forbid you have a family, kids, because these people are affected as well. They're affected when you're going through it. They're affected.
Exactly. Wow, guys, this is an amazing subject. And it reaches so deep into so many people's lives, not only the athletes, but also the people that are, in the household with them. What we're going to do right now, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back to talk a little bit more about this subject, which is a powerful subject. So we'll be right back, guys. Sports is a common denominator in the lives of people everywhere. Our celebration of sports creates an environment that gives athletes an amazing experience that enhances their lives. Athletes work long and hard to be the best at that thing that gives them so much elation. But what happens after the athlete is done? When a circumstance comes up and they're no longer able to play that sport? Whether it's the high school athlete who doesn't get that scholarship to go to the next level, or the college athlete that doesn't get picked in the draft, or even the professional athlete who now has to retire and find something else to do day to day. Many athletes struggle with this transition from competition to regular everyday life. This transition causes trauma, and that trauma often leads to depression, anxiety, anger, and even health issues. Author Terry Robinson noticed this problem and researched it and came up with the book, Athlete Transition Stress. This book deals with the subconscious programming and conditioning that goes on in an athlete's mind while participating in a sport. So if you or anyone you know are dealing with these issues related to transitioning from a sport, pick up the book, Athlete Transition Stress, and share your story in our global community online at www.letgroup1.com. Athlete Transition Stress is available on Amazon.com and on the LET Group website at www.letgroup1.com. Yes, Transition Stress. And the author who is on with us right now, Terry Robinson, he has done years of research, not only with just the things that he's done in his life and what he's went through in his life with his transition during his sports career, but also he's researched the lives of others. And, man, this book is a must-read for all people who were athletes in the past, as well as those who are in love with athletes, whether it's the child or the wife or anybody who is involved in the life of an athlete. This book will help, and it will answer a lot of questions. Lance, I think I'm going to toss it back to you because I think you had a few more points that you wanted to bring out about this subject, and then I'm just going to let you guys go ahead and discuss it. So go ahead, Lance.
I appreciate that, Eric. Yeah, because I know just picking up from Terry, and he said, sports is a kid's game. It definitely is. But I'd also argue it's a pretty serious kids game because, kids are introduced to it at an early age. And like I said earlier is, this book has allowed me to sit back and observe, people's situations because, I'm fortunate enough to have like I said, nephews and nieces play college sports, and my nephew happened to actually have a game close in the area this past weekend, so I went to the game. My brother didn't go, and I'll get into a little bit why he didn't go, but his name is Colin, and he's a sophomore at Wisconsin Platteville, and that's where I want to get you guys' advice a little bit. And it's kind of a personal story, but it's kind of interesting because you can kind of see things developing. You can see his frustrations, and even see my brother's frustrations with a little bit of the process. And again, that's why I'm kind of looking for some advice from you guys. Basically when he started the year, and he was recruited, and he had a lot of options coming out of high school, but he chose this school because it's a pretty competitive school at that level. And one of the things the coach told him when he was being recruited is, okay, we have a senior, and after the senior graduates, by the time you're a sophomore, you'll kind of step into that role and get that playing time that's available there. And one of the things that had happened, because it's a really young team, a team with one senior, a lot of juniors and stuff like that. In the beginning of the year, he was playing 22, 24 minutes a game, and still and playing good. But as the season's gone on, he's kind of seen his playing time be cut a little bit, and he's getting frustrated. My brother's getting frustrated because they don't know why. And what had happened, one transfer at the same position, and so it's really cutting into his time. But one of the things I want to talk about and really get your guys' advice on is, Colin, he's getting frustrated because he doesn't know how to handle it because he's never really dealt with it. And one of the things he says is he doesn't want to be, a whiner and go to the coach and, complain. But yet he's a little bit embarrassed because, he's never even dealt with not playing at any level before. He started when he's a freshman in high school and has always played a lot. And so now, you just tell being at the game, he was a little bit embarrassed. I mean, he played about 18, 20 minutes and played well, but he wants to play more. And in my brother's situation, he can kind of see what's happening. You have all these underclassmen, and he's kind of wondering, well, he's not playing this year. When's he gonna play? And so, should he think about transferring, or what? When you're in that situation, I guess I know, Erica, you have a son that's playing college ball right now. I mean, what would you recommend as a father who's kind of the protector, bottom line? Coaches make promises to kids all the time, but don't necessarily always follow them because, the goal is to win. And obviously, you have the player that gets a little frustrated. So I guess, how would you, when you guys were recruited or when you dealt with that situation, or had to deal with that situation, what would you recommend? Or Eric, what would you do as a parent in that situation if you felt like, your child wasn't, getting the time that they needed?
Man, that's a great question, and Lance, that is not only happening at the college level, but my God, it's happening everywhere. I mean, the high school level definitely. I was a high school coach for a little bit of time back in Chicago at Kenwood High School. By the way, Kenwood beat Whitney Young the other day, which is a big win. T, you know what's up with that. That's a big win. Go, my boy. I hope my boy, Coach Marlo Finn, is listening. Terry knows him as well, so I'm going to do a quick shout-out to him. But one of the things that happens with that, guys, is, and you mentioned my son. My son is actually going through a very similar situation now, whereas he was recruited and he was told that, he would get a certain amount of time, and that's not really happening right now. And in the situation that he's in, there's a lot of underclassmen that are playing. So some of the same stuff that you're saying, Lance. And I think what happens is when you go into these programs, coaches, and Terry, I know you could probably second this, but coaches, they want players. They want players, and they want good players, okay? But the thing is that when you get there, they have their own way of doing things. They have their way of running their system. They have their plans for the future. And many times when it comes to underclassmen, guys, they'll go ahead and play an underclassman thinking that, hey, if I give him this experience now, then he will go ahead and grow and be a better player. Now, if someone's been there for a while and they start playing underclassmen, that is the thing that begins to zap people's confidence. That's what makes people get a little down on themselves, and then they begin to even question many things. Not only do they begin to question sometimes the strategy of the coach and the coaching staff, and even at times question their own ability, but also that type of stress actually gets translated to the entire family. And I think you mentioned a little bit about your brother and the rest of the family, and you guys are probably wondering the same thing. Okay, why is his minutes cut? What happened? What's going on? What changed all of a sudden? And a lot of times it's just the way coaches see things. They see things differently, and they want to make changes. And many times coaches feel that, hey, I don't need to really let a player know, or I don't need to let a parent know how I'm going to do this. Now, the way that I'm dealing with this situation, and my son mainly is dealing with the situation, because one of the things that I want to do with my son is to make sure that he treats this as an adult and as a man. I don't want to come in and sweep in as super dad, or, come in as the dad coming out the stands and calling the coach and doing all that type of thing, because I feel that this is an opportunity for him to grow and to transition, to go back to what we always talk about. This is a way for him to become a man and transition into a whole nother area of his life. So one of the things I told my son, and Terry has actually helped me with this, is that I told my son, number one, when you play, you still play as hard as you can. You give it everything you got, and do not slack off at all. When you're in practice, give it everything you've got. Do not slack off. Win every sprint if you can. Win every drill if you can, and do everything to the best of your ability. There's two reasons why I told him this. The first reason is because if this is the game that you love, then all you can do is get better when you give that type of effort all the time. If you give that effort every day and you give it everything you got every day, then you'll only get better. And in the long run, that's going to make you a better person. Secondly, in the midst of all of that, is that now when you still give that effort, you're still kind of there for your teammates, and you're there for the team. Because many times, and Terry, I'm going to give it over to you in a second, many times what happens is when that type of thing happens, the player kind of alienates himself, and then the team goes on and they go through the season and even go into the playoffs, and then they see you almost as a cancer, because now you seem like you're not a team player, because it seems as though you're not getting your way. So that's some of the stuff that I've kind of been working with my son with. Now, guess what? That sounds all fine and dandy. If we wrote that in the book, that would be great. And people say, oh, that sounds like good advice. But it's easier said than done, because, again, the programming and conditioning of athletes these days, they want to play the game that they've worked so hard to get good at. And I can understand your nephew, man, because from what I'm hearing, he probably was a heck of an athlete in high school. He probably was the man in high school. He did his thing. He was heavily recruited, highly recruited. And now he goes to this school, and that school is a great school at that Division II level. And they do compete many times, and they go on to compete for the national championship. And now he's sitting on the sidelines wondering what's up. So that's kind of how I deal with it. I mean, Lance, I'm sorry. It seems like I kind of cut you off, but, that's kind of how I deal with it. And that's such a tough situation. It really is. But that's kind of how we've dealt with it. And I have to give it to my son. He's had his times where he had to vent. So, Lance, I'll tell you this. Let your nephew vent. Let him call you sometimes and vent, and let him say whatever you got to say. If he's mad, let him get it out. But then once he gets it out, just have him to go back and do some of those things that I mentioned. And I'm just going to hand it off to you guys, Terry or Lance, whoever wants to take it.
Yeah, and I just want to make one comment, because I think that is great advice. And, and that's why that book has been so helpful, because it allows you to sit back in the observation mode. And one of the things I observed is, this is his real first challenge, or his first experience where because like Terry says in the book, it's your love, it's your passion, and all of a sudden you start to question that, and you don't understand it, or you don't know why. And, it's hard sometimes to find answers, because, obviously he's still going to work hard, and he's still going to be, a good team member, and he is. But it's just interesting just watching, because he's confused, and like my brother says, hey, you're 20 years old. You know, you got to learn to handle these things yourself. If you need to approach the coach, go talk to the coach, and just ask him, you know, what you need to do to be able to play. But he's never had to experience that before, and this is the first time going through it. And that's and I think that's one of the challenges of all athletes is at any level is, you know, your first experience where it's not a positive one. You know what I mean? And you have to deal with that adversity or the challenges of maybe not. You know, maybe it's you know, it's a wake up call, like you said. It's maybe the start of the transition, and you don't know it. You know what I mean? So I'll let Terry go ahead and talk a little bit too. But I thought it was just interesting that I just observed that this weekend because, you know, like I said, my brother actually didn't even attend the game because you know his and he's never missed a game, but it was first day of shotgun season for deer season, so he kind of said, I'll go do that. But I know my sister-in-law said that, you know, they watch a lot of the games on the computer. The last couple of games, he hasn't even turned on the computer to watch it because he's just frustrated, you know what I mean? So it's sometimes harder on the parents than it is the kids. But, so I thought that was an observation, too. So, you know, Terry, I'll let you go ahead and talk about that experience and your advice in that situation.
I think everything you guys are saying are right on the money. It's right on the money, you know, and the bottom line is he's transitioning, the family's transitioning too. You know, you have this young man, you know, this is probably one of the first times he's ever ran up against this. And this is the time for him to grow a little bit. You know what I mean? And this is, I think, where we get the biggest growth. When we deal with these types of situations, issues, we don't have dad or mom bailing us out no more. We're going to deal with it. Because I think, you know, looking back on it, and I didn't do this when I was in college, and I wish I had known this, but I should have went directly to my coach and said, hey, I need to set up a meeting with you so we can talk. You know, I might not be playing, you may not play me, but at least you need to hear me out. You know, and as a man, I can deal with that. To see, I didn't take that route because I didn't know how. I wasn't assertive enough to do that, and it hurt me in the long run. Well, one thing I can tell you about your nephew, I've met him before, and I know your family. So he's going to be okay because you guys gave him a good foundation, just like Eric's son. Whatever happens, he go pro or he doesn't, they're going to be okay because they have good character. This is where your character starts to stand out. You know, when you're going through a situation, when you don't have that good character, that's when I mean, it doesn't look good. I'm not saying that something bad will happen, but a lot of times it doesn't look good because these kids don't have good foundations, and their character is behind, you know, and it ends up affecting them in a negative way. But I would always suggest, you know, sitting down with the coach, and just letting the coach know what's on your mind, what you're thinking, what you feel, and then the coach is up to him to make the decision. You can't determine what he's going to do or what he's going to say, but at least you can get that off your chest, and at least you feel like you did everything within your power, because once again, it's about control. And if I want to be in control, I have to be able to manage that, you know, and being able to assert myself to a point where I can say, you know, I'm not afraid of approaching this man or this coach because my thing was, well, if I say something, I'm not going to be able to play no more. Well, I wasn't playing anyway, so what difference does it make?
Exactly. So what is it going to hurt? Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
This would have been great practice for me. This would have made me grow tremendously because in the real world, that's what you're going to have to do anyway. Speak up for yourself.
Exactly.
This is a time when you have to speak up for yourself. But I understand from a player standpoint, too, his ego is being bruised because he's never been in this situation before. He's feeling a little down, embarrassed. You know, why am I sitting here not getting in the game, not playing? You know, my dad got these expectations of me, my family. So in a young man's head or a young female's head, when they're at this stage, that's what all of these different things are going through their head. I'm letting these people down. You know, am I working hard? Am I doing as much as I could possibly be doing? In a lot of cases, you are. It's just the circumstances. You know, like Eric was speaking to earlier. Some coaches have a different way of seeing things. Sometimes they have a different agenda. Sometimes they made deals with some players coming in. I mean, there's a whole lot of different things that go along with sports, and especially when you get to that level that you wouldn't even be aware of. Because I ended up learning some things at the end of my senior year that I had no clue of, and I was one of the leaders on the team. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on that you're not even aware of. So the one thing is, like Eric said, keep practicing, keep playing hard, keep playing as hard as you possibly can, because you don't want to get to a point where you start questioning yourself on and off the court, because that happens as well. You know, and you need like you said, his family, y'all need to continue to support him, continue to build him up, continue to let him know we still love you, whether you're on the floor or you're not. You know, but I want you to continue working hard, though, representing who you are, you know, because there's life after basketball. Yes.
Yeah, and Terry, it's something, and this is what I want to bring into it, too. There is life after basketball, and that's a great segue for this. Guys, we all have had jobs. We've all had businesses. And in those businesses, we've ran into some of the same type of problems, whereas we dealt with people who had a different agenda than what we had. We thought we were in a certain place. We thought we would get a certain thing, right? But then it did not work out the way that we thought it did. So in other words, Terry, that character that you're talking about carries over into the rest of your life. And that is the transition that we really want athletes to go into, right? We don't want them to go and transition in such a way where they are bitter, angry, and they begin to go and do things that they should not do, which I see, and we've all seen athletes do that. But we would rather have athletes be high-character guys who can go through things, who can grow from those experiences, and then use them later on when they get into other life experiences. Like, for instance, when you're in corporate America and you have a boss that you don't agree with, but you were hired as the superstar. But every time that you come in and try to say that you want to do something that you want to do, they shut you down. So what do? Do you go back and start bad-mouthing the boss? Do you go back and start bad-mouthing the company? Or do you go back and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to work as hard as I can. I'm going to have a discussion with the boss. Look, Lance, you said something else about transferring. To me, there's nothing wrong with that, because if you go in and have a discussion with that coach or with that person, it's just like having a boss at a job. If you are not in agreement with that boss and with the way that organization is run, this is the thing that I've realized. You need to leave that organization, because that is their organization, and that is, they're responsible for it. So usually things aren't going to change just because you went and had a talk. Usually you're going to have to make the final decision about what you're going to do. So those types of situations will actually prepare your nephew. It may not help him right now, but oh my God, the young man's going to be prepared for so much different type of stuff. Before we go any further, because this is an awesome subject, I want to pay a few more bills. So there's going to be another commercial here, and then we'll be right back, and we're going to continue this awesome conversation. So we'll see you on the other side of this commercial.
The LET Group was established in 2016. Lance Conley, Eric Harrison, and Terry Robinson came together in agreement to build a model of integrity, hard work, and excellence. All three share a passion for health and creativity, using outside-of-the-box thinking. They all have backgrounds in sports and entrepreneurship. Lance and Terry have over 50 years of combined experience in the mental health field, and Eric has over 25 years of experience in marketing and business. They came together to build a service that would literally change lives. The LET Group offers seminars, books, and other tools to encourage, educate, and enhance the quality of life for those in need. For more information on the tools and resources that the LET Group offers, visit www.letgroup1.com.
Yes. Man, this is an awesome show. You know what? I'm going to tell you something. Every time I get on this show and I listen to these two guys, it actually really helps me. So I know if it's helping me, it's helping you guys too. And the other thing I want to bring up is the LET Group. This is what we're all about. We want to help people to get over all of the things that they may have experienced during their career in sports. Sports is a great thing. We're not saying that sports is bad at all, and it brings many good things into your life, but also sometimes it brings trauma. And that's why we set up the LET Group. We have our website, and it's www.letgroup1.com. And there's so many things out there. We've got so many different products and different things like that, so many different tools that can help you to transition into, your life after sports. One thing that we have our transition stories. So there's a menu option where you can go and you can actually go and read the transition stories of other athletes. And even we have some people in the corporate realm that have shared some stuff about their transition stories. And we also provide you a link and a form where you can share your transition story as well. Terry said this many times. If you can share your story and get it out, then you can get the help that you need. Also, another thing that we have, which is a new feature that we've just rolled out, it is called our monthly inspiration videos, whereas Terry is now out there and he's sharing some of these same concepts, some of these same principles that we're talking about on the show. He's sharing it, and it's a subscription video product, whereas you can subscribe. It's $5 a month, $4.99 actually. It's $4.99 a month, $4.99 a month, and you can go ahead and you'll be able to subscribe to these videos. And, man, there's many of them out there, and there's going to be many more, and we're going to just give you all the stuff that you need. So go to www.letgroup1.com and check out all the great things that we have going. Now, Terry, we've been doing, this show has been amazing, and we've probably got about 10 minutes left. So I'm going to hand it off to you, man, and you take it wherever you need to take it.
Yeah, it was ironic that we started talking about character, because in the end, that's what's going to get you over the hump. It's about having that character or building that character up. Sometimes we have it, sometimes we don't. I can't say that I always had it. I had decent character, but I was a work in progress. And as we talk about this, I was thinking about this kid that played football in Iowa State over the last year. He was a junior college transfer, and he came from Coffeyville, Kansas. And obviously he was pretty good and pretty talented to earn a scholarship to Iowa State. Iowa State's in Big 12. And so he didn't have the season that I'm thinking that they thought he should have had last year. And for whatever reason, I don't know the background on it, he was no longer a member of the team. But I read a story a week ago how he had got a burglary charge, and so they had his mug shot posted like they always do, and they had a comment from the coach pretty much saying, he used to be a member of the team, but he has nothing to do with our team. It was like all ties, or there's nothing tying him to our team pretty much. And I mean, it was almost like this kid just was abandoned. You know what I mean? Whether he did something wrong or not. And I'm not defending the kid or the coach at this point. I'm just talking about this subject and how it looks and how people are affected in the long term, in the long run. And so you see this kid, now his parents or whoever sent him to Iowa State, they trusted the system. They trusted that this kid would get here and they would take care of him. Of course, the coaches trusted him enough to bring him to their university, and then he has some incidents, obviously, that gets him off the team. And now I'm wondering, what is this kid thinking? This kid is sitting in jail, because of something that he did. And he's obviously still in Ames because Ames is the city that the Iowa State is in. So he's sitting in jail in Ames, out of all the places. His picture is posted on the news, on TV, in the newspaper. What's going through this young man's head? What is he feeling emotionally? Whether he did wrong or not, and it was obviously wrong. But how low can you go? So I think about these kind of things, and this is what I'm talking about with transition stress. Now, obviously, he got put off the team for whatever reason, so that was already a blow to his little ego or whatever, and now he's behind bars. Within the same year, he was just on the team. And now the coaches are disowning him for whatever reason. And I know this is his second year. That coach came to Iowa State from University of Toledo, so I'm sure he's trying to build a program. And so I can't necessarily fault him because I don't know what the kid's background truly was. So I can't fault the coach for doing what he's doing. He's trying to reestablish this program as a winning program, as a quality program, and he's not going to tolerate this kind of behavior. But I'm thinking, first of all, what was this kid? What was this kid's objective? What was he trying to do? Why was he doing some of the things he's doing? Is he out there by himself? Does he have a lack of resources? Because for him to do something like that, I'm sure that was part of the motivation. Not saying that I condone it, but I'm just trying to understand the whole situation. And I think most people have wrote him off because he can't produce on the football field for Iowa State no more in that area. And so these are the things that we cannot no longer do or tolerate or accept. You know, if the kid is not, you know, doing it on the team or whatever, we need to put some supports around them because these type of things happen all the time. And they happen all the time, and they shouldn't. Because if this kid was good enough to make it all the way to the that level of football, he should have some type of resources that help him on his way out, regardless if it's good or bad. I remember, and I'm not switching gears a little bit, but I remember getting into it with a coach before about a kid that wanted to leave the schools. Now, the kid was a hell of a basketball player, and he wanted to leave because he just didn't feel comfortable no more with the situation or the way things were going. And so the coach didn't know that I talked to the kid because the kid contacted me out of nowhere saying, you know, I need some help. I'm trying to get out of here, and the coach won't let me out of here. And he said if I try to leave, I won't be able to play no more, nowhere. And I said, you know, just like I would, if I was doing the same thing, if I had the same situation, I would want somebody to help me, you know, because the kid still wanted to play basketball. I said, well, I'll try to help you the best way I can. You know, I'm limited. I'm nobody, but I'll do what I can do to try to help you because I hate to see somebody that far from home feeling like they don't have no nothing. You know what I mean? They just at the coach's mercy. And so I tried to help this kid, and the coach somehow found out, and he assumed that I just tried to steal the kid away from him, which wasn't the case. So we ended up getting into it, and I told the coach, I said, first of all, you as the adult, you brought this kid here. His parents trusted you that you were going to take care of him. And the kid got into a situation where he felt like it just wasn't working for him no more and he wanted to do something else. You wouldn't support him. And you actually told the kid that if he left your school, you wouldn't allow him to play. I mean, just to talk to a kid that way, to say something like that, and somebody that literally trusted you, for you to do that to them, I still today don't think that that's right. And that happened probably 20 years ago. And here it is with another young man going to jail because he probably doesn't have any other place to go. So he's out here trying to survive. He's probably embarrassed by not being on the team or not playing. He doesn't feel like he can get back home, maybe. Or if he does go back home, what is he going back to? So I think about all these different things that the average person just does not think about because why would they think about? And that's why we create a show like this. Because just because they're not playing no more, they still have a life to live. They're still human. They're still somebody's child. And these guys are young, 21, 22 years old. I mean, these are babies. They're babies. And when they get abandoned like that, that's a hard pill for me to swallow, whether they're doing something right or wrong. And it's like we have to put something in place to support these young athletes. We have to put something in place to support the athletes because if there's something there to support him, I'm not quite sure he would have found himself in the situation that he's in today. You know,
exactly.
And not to keep rambling on, but I just don't. I think we have to put something in place to support these athletes. Because it happens all the time. And I'm sure he's dealing with some type of depression, and that's not to bail him out or to make excuses for him, but I'm sure he's dealing with depression. I'm sure he is.
Wow.
Yeah, because I think, you know, you hit on it because a lot of times in your book, Terry, you talk about, I think the first response is a lot of times to isolate. And that's why it's important as an athlete to know who your support systems are, because I mean we've talked about several examples tonight, and you know the people that seem to make the easier transition, I guess, have a strong support systems around them. You know, Marcus, like I said, Marcus Lattimore had the university and his mother around him. You know, after he went through his knee injury, she encouraged him still to graduate school. Now he has a foundation. He coaches football, and you know he feels like he's kind of progressed and kind of gone through that devastating time in his life. Whereas, you know, the kid in Iowa State, you know, what kind of support systems did he have? You know, the situations are different, But at the same time, like you said, you know, the university, the coach, bring these kids into the universities, and, you know, whose job is it to, you know, bring these kids along? And, you know, a lot of the colleges do have support systems, but when a kid really needs them, when they're in a position where, you know, they experience something, and like you say, they want to isolate. If they want to isolate and everybody else pushes them aside, you know, that kid is all alone. That kid has nobody, and you know, it's and that's going to probably change that kid's life forever. And this is probably the time he needs a support system more than ever. You know, somebody to help him along during this time. So, but yeah, that was a great example, and you know exactly what you talked about in your chapter. Yeah.
Right. Just think about it. Just a year ago, he was playing. Not even a year later, he's in jail. And, you know what I mean? You go from playing at Iowa State to being behind bars. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the depth of what this young man is feeling? I mean, it's embarrassing to be sitting on the bench. You think it's not embarrassing to be sitting behind bars? You know, how do you face your family, man? We or your friends. We expected so much out of you, and here you. How did you get to this point? How'd you get here? And you know, how do you answer a question like that? Because I'm sure if he had a choice, he wouldn't want to be sitting there. If he had a choice, and I'm not saying he didn't have a choice to do whatever it was that he did, but I'm curious to know what he actually did and why he did it. Why did he do it? You know what I mean? Sometimes we call for help and we don't even realize it. On a subconscious level, we're asking for help. I'm hurting, and I can guarantee you this kid was hurting because I know what it feels like to not be playing, and I don't know what it feels like to go to jail. Unfortunately, I haven't been there. But I can only imagine what's going through his head because I'm sure his intentions were to be playing on somebody's professional team and making a lot of money and enjoying life. And now he's doing just the opposite. Will he come out of it? Who knows? But these are the people that we need to be trying to reach out to. You know what I mean? If I can get in touch with him to send a copy of the book for free, that's what I would do. Just read it, man. And you know, these are the people that we can help. Some of the people. And we definitely want to do more prevention. Then it shouldn't even get to this point. It shouldn't get to this point, but you know, our goal is to do prevention work.
And I'm gonna share something with you guys too. But it's like the story with the guy from Iowa State. Like my story was probably closer to that. Now I didn't go and commit burglary or I didn't do anything of that nature. But the thing was with the way that my career was so abruptly cut off. And if I went back home, Terry, I mean, it was crazy back where I lived. Everything was out of control. I mean, you know, it was a gang situation. And if I go back home, number one, I'm embarrassed because they're like, oh, you didn't make it. You know what I'm saying? You must wasn't that good. So then you got to go back to that shame. And then also you have to go back to not knowing what is there for you. You know, many times, like my family really didn't have money. People didn't have money for me. So I was going back to a situation where I didn't know what was going on. Guys, we only got a minute left, so this show has flown by. So I want to first of all thank both of you, man, for sharing. We've talked about a whole lot this entire show, and I think a lot of people are going to be touched by the things that we have going on. So listen, we want to hear what you think about our show. So you know, hit us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, LET Group 1. So go to our Facebook page, talk about, you know, what you think about the show. Also, on top of that, go to our website. Again, we have a place where you can share your transition story. Also, again, we have the monthly inspirational videos. Those are subscription videos. So for a fee of just $4.99 a month, you can go out and you can hear some of the things that we have, and we share more of our materials even more in depth with you. And we're going to touch a whole lot of lives, and this is some great stuff we're talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Lance and Terry, thanks again, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right, have a good night.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on the Lifestwists show. When you have a chance, please check out our website at www.letgroup1.com.
It was tough. You're on the road.
See all of the things that we'll be doing over the next several weeks. In the meantime, have a great week, and we'll see you soon.